starting to go places with a disease that looks an awful lot like aging. This is something that's actually worth stressing. When people first started working on aging and working on Werner's syndrome, the only thing that they had was the clinical presentation of the patients. The patients shared an awful lot of the clinical features of normal aging. But that could have been coincidence or a different etiology. And now when we dig deep into the disease, which we've done, it turns out that a likely candidate is accelerated cell senescence, which is independently proposed as an aging mechanism in you and me. If it turns out not to be premature cellular senescence, the next most likely candidate is an ectopic activation of P38 kinase itself and an inflammatory phenotype. And there is a whole separate thing some of you may have read about called inflammaging, which links aging to the activation of the immune response. This could be a case of heads we win and heads we win by intervening in this particular disease. And I would stress intervening in this disease is bonum in se, it is good in itself. So, moving on. That's Werner's syndrome. What's the other sort of fun thing that I think is on the horizon? Okay, this is something I don't like to imagine happening, and it could happen to some people in this room. If you are a previously fit older person and you fall over that bloody cat once too often and break your hip, for example, there is a very high chance you will contract an infection in the hospital ward. Okay? Nobody under the age of 30 gets these infections at all. And there's a very high chance if you get the infection that it's good night Vienna, basically. And I'm not comfortable with that. And a lot of people in the business are not comfortable with it either. One of the reasons this may happen is because of this. There's a steroid-like hormone called DHEA, which is converted in the body's DHEAS. It's part of the adrenocortical axis, and it acts to balance the action of another hormone called cortisol. Cortisol is sometimes called stress hormone. As you get older, for reasons that aren't entirely clear yet, DHEAS levels decline with age, but cortisol levels stay high. And basically what happens is this: if you are a fit younger person and you snap a bone, your cortisol levels go shooting up. DHEA normally moves up to compensate and the system stays in balance. If you are an older person and you snap a bone, your cortisol levels go shooting up, DHEAS cannot move up to compensate, and excess cortisol is immunosuppressive. So effectively, by snapping your limb, you have self-immunosuppressed, and the results are a little unpleasant, as you can see here. This is published data from Professor Janet Lord at the University of Birmingham. Okay, what you can see basically is that the immune response is right down in the neutrophil compartment for older patients who've suffered trauma compared to young controls or young traumas. Okay, so where does this help us? The advantage with this is that DHEA can potentially be given orally. What we may be looking at is effectively the 21st century equivalent of vitamin C. That needs to be properly trialled, there may be better things to do, but it is really, really helpful. And if that turns out to be correct, what it means is that we could potentially, if we get this into the public healthcare system properly, save thousands of people who would have died. Okay? And that's what we're here for. So, that having been said, trying to end on an optimistic note, this is a set of, I could go on and on and on and talk about a variety of different things that are looking hopeful. Okay? Everything looks hopeful except the funding. What I do want to add as a rider on this is aging has not been cured. And one of my most important jobs when I speak in any public forum is to put you on your guard against people who say it has or will be on Tuesday. Okay? Some people say, I think there's three groups of people. Some people say it by accident. The classic one of this is people who give interviews to the media. There is a colleague of mine who will remain nameless who gave an interview about nematodes and the mutations that extend lifespan. Okay? That was on Friday evening. On Sunday morning, he got the Sunday Times, I think it it was, to discover that he was named as the scientist who had, quote, discovered the secret of immortality. Okay. Brackets for worms appears to have been edited out for the people. He spent about the next 2 weeks sitting solidly on the phone trying to calm this down. Okay? Some people say I'm misplaced enthusiasm. Alright? The kind of media person who has listened to this, filtered out all the caveats and wherefores and all the rest of it, and then, you know, pumped it up a little bit more. And some people say it to make money. And I'll run through people that we might see. Okay? There are some people who are what we in an unenlightened and media savvy age used to call con men. I define con men as half-educated cheats, frauds, or lunatics who peddle worthless junk to fools afraid of growing old. This gentleman may or may not be a con man. I leave it to you. His name is Alex Chu. You're all sensible people and more technology savvy than me. Okay? He is the inventor of the immortality device, which you can buy over the internet. What makes his device special is that he offers a full money-back guarantee, if not immortal, within 90 days. If anybody is interested, please buy one, and do let me know how they work. Okay? There may be con men, there may not. The next class of person is something we call the quack doctor. The quack doctor is a well-educated cheat, fraud, or lunatic who peddles worthless junk to fools afraid of growing old. Quacks are way, way richer than me. They make lots of money and they can afford very good lawyers. As I always say in public fora, I am making absolutely no allegations of quackery. I want that to be completely clear. I will, however, draw your attention to this case of alleged quackery which took place. It has now been settled. This is the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine. I was actually there in March 2004 for the Silver Fleece Awards, where a gentleman called J. Olshansky awarded these two gentlemen, Ronald Platts and Robert Goldman, the Silver Fleece Award for exaggerated claims about aging for Prime Blends, a suite of nutraceuticals sold on the internet then, $560 by about a month's supply. Okay? I think everybody giggled quite a lot at this because the prize in the Silver Fleece, if I remember correctly, is a bottle of olive oil mislabeled as snake oil. The giggles faded, I believe, for Professor Olshansky on the 21st of June 2005 when he was sued for $240 million in lost earnings. I believe the case has now all been settled without lawyers chewing one another's clothes off. But I think what this illustrates is the problems that are involved in making allegations of quackery or making things that sound like allegations of quackery. So there we go. I will say one thing though about the whole supplements and pills and potions world. I am not speaking from a hostile perspective. I do take supplements. Okay, I take multivitamins, I take chondroitin sulfate, much good they do me. Okay.